I stood near the gate in my work heels, suitcase next to me. Another bag rested on the uneven grass. No one came outside. No one messaged. After a 14-hour flight and 2 months abroad, this was the greeting from my own family. The living room lights glowed inside. Laughter drifted faintly through the curtains. I didn't knock. I didn't call out. I simply stood there until something inside me shifted. I picked up my bags, turned around, and walked back to the car. I never mentioned to anyone the one-bedroom apartment I maintained on the outskirts of town, the one I paid for in cash under another name. That night, I drove straight there. I unpacked quietly. And I went silent. No calls, no updates, no explanations, just disappeared. They believed they had pushed me away for good. What they didn't realize was that I had already distanced myself long before they forced me out. And now, I was going to demonstrate exactly who they had thrown aside, without saying anything. Without making noise, just results. The apartment felt chilly and bare, but it was mine. I hadn't stayed there in nearly a year. Not since I began covering my parents' home upgrades, clearing my sister's debts, and helping with the mortgage they claimed was only short-term. They had pleaded back then, even cried. Called me the reliable one. Now they couldn't manage a single text. I sat at the tiny kitchen table, gazing at my phone. No missed calls, no apologies, no invitations to return. And that revealed everything I needed. That night, I opened the folder I kept hidden on my private drive, marked for the future. Inside were duplicates of every money transfer I had made for them over the last 6 years. Bank records, loan papers, invoices. I had never removed a single one. I had supported everything without drawing attention. I took out the burner phone I used during work trips. No one in my family knew the number, and I placed a call. "Hey, Darren? Yeah, I'm prepared." "Tell your team the answer is yes." Silence, then a chuckle on the other end. "Took you long enough, Camille." I didn't chuckle, because I already understood how this would finish. Darren collected me in a matte black SUV 2 mornings later. He didn't question the luggage I carried. Just nodded, passed me coffee, and said, "Your lawyer is waiting downtown." We drove quietly, the city passing by in slow motion. I kept remembering the note my sister attached to my suitcase, the handwriting, the confidence. They assumed I had no other options. They had no clue I had been employed by a private development company for more than 2 years, silently purchasing troubled properties in our area. I had concealed my ownership through shell companies, paper trails that circled back into LLCs with titles even my accountant couldn't link to me. But this upcoming step, it was personal. "Your parents' house," Darren said, glancing over. "The land they refinanced last spring. That's parcel 14B, correct?" I nodded, with an overdue balloon payment. He passed me a document. "We just acquired the debt." I took the paper, read it carefully, then smiled, but it didn't touch my eyes. "My family taught me everything," I said quietly. "How to deceive, how to grab, how to disappear." I folded the paper and whispered, "Now I'll teach them something new." I didn't appear, not for birthdays, not for holidays. I turned into a shadow in their lives, unseen yet always observing. My sister shared selfies from my former bedroom as if it belonged to her. My mother vented online about her ungrateful daughter who had lost her way. My father never spoke of me again. Silence as though I had passed away, but I hadn't. I had been reborn through careful planning. While they decorated my childhood home for spring gatherings and posted pretend influencer videos, I consulted with land surveyors, code officials, and a few very careful inspectors. The soil reports returned showing structural concerns. The insurance provider, after a subtle push, reviewed the coverage. The bank started contacting my dad every week. He brushed it aside. "Just paperwork." He didn't know I was sitting 2 floors above in the same building, watching. Then one morning, a notice appeared taped to their front gate. "Final warning. Payment required. 14 days. That afternoon, my sister shared a story saying, "People are so fake. Family is worthless." She had no idea. I didn't respond, but I arranged something for the following week. 10 a.m. sharp. They would all be home, and I would arrive. At exactly 10 a.m., the knock sounded, but it wasn't from me. It was from the city marshal. My parents, still wearing pajamas, opened the door to two officers, an inspector, and a lawyer holding a bright orange envelope. My mother cried out when they gave her the notice. My father tried to protest, gesturing wildly, voice growing louder. But it made no difference. Their property had been marked for public safety issues. The insurance had expired. And because of a missed payment they were sure to overlook, the bank had started foreclosure. In 30 minutes, they were let off the property. My sister stood on the lawn barefoot, clutching her phone, trembling. Who did this? Who did this? That's when I showed up. Calm, in a fitted navy dress, holding an iced coffee. She froze when she spotted me. My father looked as if he had seen a ghost. Camille, I nodded politely. It's nothing personal, just business. The lawyer next to me added, the new owner has the right to immediate inspection. I stepped inside my childhood home, the one they had bought using my funds. And this time, I didn't need approval. The house was in disarray. Stained carpets, peeling paint, unpaid utility bills piled on the kitchen counter. My parents had allowed it to decay because they believed it would always remain theirs. Untouchable, secure, I walked through the rooms like a visitor, but every space echoed with memories. My childhood bedroom still held my old bookshelf, now dusty and marked with someone else's makeup. My sister followed me like a shadow, attempting to speak. You can't just claim this. You think this makes you superior? I turned slowly. You made it simple. In the dining room, I placed the folder on the table, the one containing every receipt, agreement, and altered document they had once used to remove me from the business they built with my funds. The irony, they had used my investment to purchase the home under a shell corporation that I now owned. That shell company now carried one name, mine. They hadn't studied the details. They never expected I would study corporate law. They never pictured the overlooked daughter returning with strength. And still, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult them. I didn't throw anything. I simply stood, steady, composed, and said, You raised me to be ruthless. I just paid attention. By morning, the locks had been replaced. I hired a private crew to clear the house, quietly and legally. The eviction notice had already been delivered overnight through their own attorney. They just hadn't checked their email. When Dad pounded on my office door downtown, flushed and shaking, I didn't react. He used the same tone he had when I was 16, the tone that once made me retreat. Not anymore. You're ruining this family. I tilted my head. I thought I was never part of it. Mom stood behind him, her face showing disbelief and injured pride. She whispered, You're doing this to your own blood. I reached into my bag and pulled out the same document she had signed 10 years earlier, the one legally cutting me from their lives. I had framed it. You called me an outsider. I just stopped pretending. I didn't allow them inside. I didn't debate. I walked back to my desk and continued examining the final documents to sell off the remaining company assets, the last fragment of their empire. They believed betrayal was a single sharp pain. But true consequences, those develop gradually. The house was quiet now, no arguments, no guilt-filled meals. Just the gentle sound of my air purifier and the occasional rustle of leaves outside my new window. I didn't seize their empire to be harsh. I seized it because it was mine. Built on my silence, my effort, my childhood trust, on my willingness to diminish so they could grow, on my $60,000 that became their stepping stone and their pride. The papers were completed today. Their company was sold. Every client moved over. Their accounts cleared legally, properly, tracked to the final cent. I arranged a lawyer for them to keep it clean. That was the last courtesy they would ever receive from me. They now live in a small apartment. I live in the city, peaceful, secure, and private. My therapist asked me what justice felt like. I didn't reply. Instead, I smiled for the first time in years. Not because I had triumphed, but because I was free. Because I realized that when they said, You don't belong here, they had unknowingly granted me permission to create something entirely my own. And this time, no one else's name is on it but mine.